Board then Anurag Mathur, the CEO at Savills India, joining in on the show right now. Anurag, hi, morning, good to have you on the show. Tell us about the growth that you're projecting for co-working spaces in India, because you expect a 42% rise in leasing in 2021. Why do you think that there is going to be a boom in this space?
Morning. Thanks for having me here. Look, it's a very interesting topic and a very wide topic, and the last hasn't been said on this topic about working from home or future of work, etc., and all those things. But we believe that co-working has come to occupy a very important place in how people will work going forward. Now, the number that you talked of in terms of growth in 21, it's coming from two bases, really. One is the fact that 2020 will be a low year. This is a year where not too much, demand has been depressed and not too much space take up has happened or will happen in the next 20 odd days of the year. So it's an artificially depressed year. Therefore, the bounce back would be stronger, and that contributes a lot to the growth. And the second is that as people come back to normalcy, as work comes back to normalcy, we believe very strongly that co-working or flex spaces, as you may call it, will play a very important role in commercial real estate and how occupiers get back to work. So these are really the 2 points.
Okay. But, when it comes to India, Anurag, it's really more about a mindset. How is it that the acceptance and response of Indian employers has been to co-working spaces? Because you still look at co-working spaces, the WeWorks and what have you, as a very millennial trend and a very startup trend, if I can term it that.
Yeah, look, very interesting question that you ask. And I can speak for a long time on this, but just to be brief on this. Number one is, I think if you go by what's happened in India over the last 5 years in this space, India has been one of the greatest success stories in terms of co-working spaces. The number of centers or the space that we occupy in terms of co-working is only second to US in the world. And like you said, a large part of our workforce is millennials. So I think we have that advantage where there is a propensity to take to newer models of workplace very easily, as opposed to workforces which are mature or aging who may have resistance. We don't have that problem. We have a workforce which is very quick to take up to new models. Now, coming back to the other point that you had was to say that this space has largely been associated with startup kind of environment, which is true. Look, even today, the majority of occupiers in co-working centers tend to be these startup organizations. They need quick space. They don't have great growth plans. They don't have visibility, long-term visibility, and for them, it's very, very appropriate. But given the uncertainty that the world economy has, or the world as such, has seen over the last few years, take out COVID. Even without COVID, we had shorter and unpredictable business cycles. We do not have the ability to create 5-year business plans and such stuff. You need just-in-time space. So co-working spaces or centers have actually been becoming a part of a larger strategy for old world companies as well. So large occupiers who cannot predict long-term trends, etc., and they can't commit to long-term spaces and need just-in-time kind of space to get a project or a unit or something up and running very quickly. This falls very appropriately with them. So they can go to. So what I'm saying is, yes, the startup environment or the individual gig economy, as you may have called it, it lends very easily to them. But it's now coming into the center stage. It's coming into places where old world companies you would not typically see them, but it's getting there now.
Sure. Tell us also in terms of the kind of pockets where you're starting to see traction. Obviously, there's been an evolution post-COVID, even if earlier there were other challenges. There's been an evolution from the corporate side on how to adapt to this market. Are there certain hubs where you're seeing a lot more activity naturally, the IT hubs like a Bangalore or a Hyderabad? Are there other regions where you're seeing more of a shift towards this trend due to certain factors that you could share with us? But tell us just how that evolution is happening.
So look, it's empirical data that a large amount of co-working centers have been concentrated and have been very successful in the tech cities of Bangalore and Hyderabad. This is where very large concentration is. And that comes back to the point that I was making, that they come from their initial success or genesis is in the startup or the tech space and that kind of a thing. And therefore, that's where it is. But going forward, we see more democratization of these centers. And look, once again, like I said earlier, a few minutes ago in the opening statement, the last hasn't been said. So you'll see how that space evolves. But our take is that you will see now more and more distribution and a wider adoption of co-working spaces. We will see, we're predicting a phenomena. Well, look, again, sorry to go back and forth, but look, we are currently in a situation where people are working from home. They want to get to office. The mainstay, large, concentrated office perhaps is going to if not die down, it will lose its relevance in the future. But people can't work from home at all times. Therefore, what we will have is something which is center stage, which means you will have workplaces which will be smaller, more flexible, and where they will come closer to people's homes and giving people that flexibility to work from wherever they want. And in that sense, flex spaces will be that vehicle which brings a classic workplace to the doorstep of your people. People remain very, very important to organizations of the future because that's the war for talent, and that's where the intellectual capital rests. So organizations will have to be, and they have been very flexible in many ways. They will become very flexible with where and how people want to work and giving them that flexibility. We see flex spaces now getting, like I said, they'll get wider spread to more cities than just tech cities. They will go into tier 2 cities, tier 2 centers, maybe tier 3 cities as well. You will see them in cities. They will go out to suburban locations, peripheral locations where people actually live, where residential focus areas are. They will go there. We see flex spaces going into integrating themselves with retail spaces. We see in a couple of years' time, flex spaces going up to residential areas, which means if there's a condominium, which has a club and a health center, et cetera, how cool would it be to have a flex office operator within that? So if someone wants to go and work for 4 hours, they could do work from there and then come back home. So stuff like that. We see a larger distribution.
Fantastic, Anurag. Great chatting with you this morning, and good to hear, how things are shaping up on that end. Thanks for joining us and taking the time out.
Thank you.